Welcome to this week's episode of the IBC Roundtable, where every Tuesday we're diving deep into your favorite subject matter, the infinite banking concept. This week, you may just have gotten tripped up.
Well, for some people, if you're very numbers oriented, this may be the one topic that has prevented you from starting your policy.
And it can be a little heady, let's be honest.
Well, I think maybe if it was so heady, that's the reason why I didn't get invited to participate.
That is potentially true. Now, let me ask you a question since you weren't there. Russ, if you're starting a policy today, do you want your dividend to be affected if you take a loan against the policy or not?
It depends.
Okay, you can't just, no, that's a non-answer. Give me a real answer.
It isn't. I mean, there's so many factors. That's the thing is when I get asked the question, shouldn't I want a company that's a non-direct recognition company, meaning that they don't recognize that I have a policy loan, so my dividend isn't reduced? And I say, well, it depends, right? Some insurance companies treat dividends differently. Some have different scales. Some have different expenses. It's much deeper than just that one piece.
That's right. This could get into the 301, 401 area. And reality is, what are we really buying a policy for?
The use of it, what we're trying to accomplish outside of it. I think sometimes people get so caught up in the internal rate of return, but what is the external rate of return? There's so many more things. Joey, I was hung up on this back in 2015. As you know, I went and bought insurance policies at the same time with two different companies. One treated the dividend as if, okay, we're going to recognize you have a policy loan. And the other one said, I don't care how many loans you have. And I've been tracking them for 5 years. And in the circle, I actually share a diagram that will let you see that stuff. Now, I don't know what all you and Ernie covered on today's episode, because I didn't get to participate in all of that, but I know this is a good episode if you really are hung up on this. And so I'm as interested in listening to it as well. Let's belly up.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome into another week of the Roundtable. This is our weekly discussion around the topic of IBC, and today we're joined by Joey, the Italian Stallion Murray. Been waiting to say that for a while. And I am downtown Ernie Brown.
But Ernie, who's missing this week?
We're missing the ID guy.
The idea guy is not here. Now, that does not mean we are remiss of ideas. In fact,
No way.
I mean, we've got more ideas than I think we can handle in one podcast. We're going to have to actually take this conversation in to the inner circle, because what were we talking about today? Let's just dive in here.
Yeah, today we were talking about a topic that when we think about IBC, for the people who really get into the details, this is a huge topic. Today we're talking about direct versus non-direct recognition with insurance company carriers.
Okay. So first of all, if this is the first time you've been hearing the term IBC, we're talking about the infinite banking concept based off of the book, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. If you are brand new to all this, I want you to probably stop what you're doing, go back and listen to some of our other podcasts on the subject so you can get a good baseline. This is going to be more in the weeds, right? Admittedly, we're talking about how to evaluate a company based on what needs you're going to have for the use of it for infinite banking. But you brought up something to me that I thought was pretty interesting. As you know, I got to play golf this morning with my two girls.
Think about that this morning.
And so why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, as you were playing golf, thinking about making birdies and chasing par.
I did not make a birdie, by the way.
No birdies.
I got really close and I just ate it. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, you were thinking about it.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about that. The last time that we played golf together was at, I think, one of our favorite courses in Birmingham. That's Farm Links.
Yes.
And mistakenly thought that that's where you were this morning.
Yeah, no.
Not the case.
Not quite.
So I was mispicturing it, but I think the point still applies.
Yeah.
Joey, this morning at the course you weren't playing at, There's a particular hole at this golf course, Farm Links, that's pretty treacherous.
Number 5.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And it's a par 3, right?
That's right.
So me and par 3 don't get along generally. But this one is amazing. It's basically off of the side of a mountain,
Yes.
right?
It's about 200 yards into the air. I mean, if you will, you're just winding up and down, or up this mountain, back and forth, back and forth. You get to the very top, just to give you the picture, and they have binoculars at the top in a mailbox that you can look around. I don't know how far you can possibly see, but it is 1,000 miles. It looks like. I mean, that you can see, and it is gorgeous. I mean, it's breathtaking. And then you realize that this is a golf hole, right?
That's right.
Actually have to hit a golf ball down this decline onto a green, and it says on the scorecard it's about 220 yards.
Right, and that's from the tips.
Yeah, from the tips.
Which is the only way that you'd play that hole.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing that, you're not living. Right.
That's right. So the reason I was thinking about that is because when I think about hitting a 200-yard golf shot, I'm thinking somewhere between driver and hybrid. I mean, for me, driver on a bad day, hybrid on a good day.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a 200-yard shot. So if we're playing golf, like we're evaluating an insurance company, and we've got a 200-yard shot, we would probably evaluate our club, right?
That's right.
So on this hole, 200-yard normal shot is a long club. What club do you hit on that hole?
I dial it in with a 6-iron.
You hit your 6-iron.
That's right.
Off the side of the mountain, 200 yards is what we're carrying.
Yeah, because that ball just goes and goes and goes. You kind of like stop for lunch in between your shot and it hits the green. You're just looking for it to hit the green. But to your point, I would never hit a 6-iron 200 yards anywhere else but there.
That's right. Because you're not just evaluating the club, right?
That's right.
We're thinking about other things like mainly the elevation on that hole.
Exactly.
What would be some other things we'd evaluate on a golf shot?
I mean, you're looking at wind.
Yep.
You're looking at how dense the area is. I mean, is it freezing cold? Is it burning hot?
Yep.
Is it wet? All those things factor into it.
Yeah. And the better that you get, the more that you're thinking about, right? Am I trying to shape this thing left or right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can choose your club for that. So that's the same way it is when we're implementing the infinite banking concept. It's not just this one factor. If it's direct or non-direct recognition, don't want to place that, right? Because ultimately what we're doing is we're playing the long game with this.
Yeah.
So as we evaluate direct and non-direct recognition companies as the place where we want to practice the infinite banking concept, it becomes one of the factors.
That's right. And I think you're pointing out a really good point here is that we get this actually asked of us quite often is, well, how do you know what company to use? I mean, we are not pigeonholed in at Wealth Without Wall Street to using one particular company. We're not what you would call a captive agent that we have to write your insurance with a specific company. And so we have numerous ones that we work with.
That's right.
And so
both direct and non-direct recognition companies.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so to your point, that is one of the factors when we are talking to you about your needs, and Ernie's on the phone every day, all day with folks about this. He is constantly helping them to make the decision based on all those different factors. And this is one of them. So just want to kind of properly put in context what our conversation is and why does it matter?
Yeah. So really, what does it mean to be a direct recognition or a non-direct recognition company?
Well, I think you actually defined it well. We were talking about it beforehand. Why don't you jump in?
Yeah,
there?
well, I did my best. And so in just simple terms, if you went and called an actuary at an insurance company, you might get a better answer. But the way that I think about it is we use these insurance policies for cash value. So as we pay premium, those are in a sense kind of like deposits to the insurance company.
That's right.
So they take those and they put them to work to pay, namely the future death benefit.
That's right.
Hopefully way in the future.
Right.
So they put that to work. And for us, we want to use and leverage the insurance company's value, our value in the policy, take policy loans and put our cash to work.
That's right.
So that money has to come from somewhere. I was looking in Nelson's second book, Building a Warehouse of Wealth, and he talks about this in the second chapter. which I highly recommend that book to anyone, first of all, for a first read or for a reread. It's amazing. But they put that cash to work, and when we make use of that cash, we're putting it to work. So the insurance company has to go get that cash from somewhere. And so that's cash that they're no longer putting to work themselves. And so when we talk about direct recognition and non-direct recognition, there's two ways that the insurance company accounts for that cost. And at direct recognition companies, they go and they pass that cost back to the people who have taken the provision, take policy loans.
Because they're directly recognizing that that particular policy had a loan taken against it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And at non-direct recognition companies, they pass that cost along to their entire book of business.
Right. They're spreading it across the entire portfolio.
That's right. And the cost comes out of they reduce the dividend a fraction at a direct recognition company for those who have exercised the provision of taking policy loans.
I think that's a great way to explain it. So thank you.
Well, I did my best.
So now a lot of people ask us what kind of companies are direct and which ones are non-direct. And we're actually going to dive into that in the Inner Circle hot seat and Q&A session. We're about to dive into that here in just a little bit. By the way, if you're not already a member of our Inner Circle, you are practicing infinite banking. This is the only place that exists where you don't have to be a client of ours to be a part of this Inner Circle. If you want to learn these things, you want to go deeper on the subjects of IBC and other people that are doing this, be surrounded by them so that you're not that guy that's out on the island somewhere. You need to join us. So go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/inner circle and you can join today. If you're already in our community, you just go to the left-hand side and you can join the group called Inner Circle and you can be in there with us for those things. So just want to make sure everybody knows how to get there.
That's right. But what we're talking about is dividends.
That's right.
That's where it impacts the policy is these insurance company pay dividends. That matters at a direct and non-direct recognition company. So as we evaluate that, right, it's not just the 6-iron or the hybrid.
That's
we're looking at other things, not just the distance. It's the dividend, right? So what if, let's zoom out and evaluate, if we're using these insurance policies, we kind of thought of this question. This is a dividend. So if the insurance company stopped paying dividends 20 years from now, right, and we just have the guaranteed growth of the policy, which is that the cash value is growing to equal the death benefit in the last year, and we no longer earned a dividend.
Whoa. You just said something that's very profound, and I want to make sure it's very clear. You just differentiated that there's a guaranteed cash value and the dividend. And you said the guaranteed cash value did what?
Grows to equal the death benefit in the last year.
And it is actuarially built to do that.
That's right.
Right? We don't have to hope. We don't have to wonder. We don't have to who's elected, who's not elected. None of that affects what you just said. There's a guaranteed cash value that's going to grow to it's engineered. Okay, we're going to talk about very specific numbers and things like that.
That's right.
And direct and non-direct. If you're an engineer, you like numbers, you should be like really perked up here. This thing was absolutely actuarially engineered to meet the death benefit, grow to that point when it when it endows. Okay, which could be year 100, 121, depending on the policy.
That's right.
But the dividend is an additional. It's a surplus. It's a return of premium. Right.
Right. That's what a dividend is.
Right. So I'm sorry, you continue on, but I want to point that out because that's very, very critical.
Well, thank you. So on guaranteed, it's going to do that, but non-guaranteed, it's going to do that. And what does non-guaranteed mean? Well, non-guaranteed, that is going to pay a dividend.
That's right. It's not going to be exactly what you see on the page.
That's right. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the step further, the benefit of using a dividend paying cash value life insurance policy. Is that we can earn dividends. And we like that. So we like to look at that non-guaranteed side of the cash value growth. And we use that dividend that may or may not be earned at whatever rate it's earned. If it's direct recognition, can be slightly reduced. If it's non-direct, it's not. All of that. And we use that dividend to purchase additional paid up edition insurance. So we're raising that death benefit is what we're doing.
You're forcing the death benefit to go higher.
That's right.
Which if we just said that the guaranteed cash value has to grow to equal the death benefit, we are forcing the cash to grow faster.
That's right. Every time that we earn a dividend and we use it to purchase additional insurance, we're then in turn forcing the cash value to increase.
Bang. I love this stuff. I want to continue to point it out. But you just asked the question, what if these policies quit paying dividends 20 years from now?
That's right. If that happened, we have to evaluate it. Would it still be worth it?
Would infinite banking, like the process of infinite banking,
that's right,
still be worth it? That's the question.
If the product stopped earning a dividend, would this process still be worth it?
And how would you answer that?
I guess it depends on what you've done for the last 20 years and the previous 20 years.
Exactly. What you're pointing out to everyone listening right now is it is about what you do with it. So those of you who have bought a policy, and guess what? I was in this position. Russ was in this position. Ernie hopefully has learned from our mistakes and not been in this position. But we thought at one point that the insurance policy was the end, right? That this is just a better vehicle than your 401k that you just save and you accumulate in. But what is actually happening when you become the banker in your own life? You've taken back control of that function. You now open up an entire world that didn't exist before. So the scene is an illustration.
That's right.
The numbers on a page.
That's what we can see.
That's right. That's the scene. The unseen is what you do with those policies. And I say policies because this is going to end up being a conglomerate of different policies that you've earned or gained over time as you find new ways to grow wealth. And that is the difference, is when you look up, and even 10 years into this, me personally, if you told me that we would have the business that we have, that we would be flipping land, that we would be starting a short-term rental business, that I would have bought 100unicorns.com to try to, teach my daughters more about how to build a business online, I would have been like, you're crazy. But did the policies do that, or did it just my mind expanded as a result of having cash in a position that could be used, and I had to tell it what to do?
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And what's standing in way of accomplishing those things is the threat of potentially zooming in and only sticking on those details.
Okay. So I've heard this said before, analysis by paralysis. Or excuse me, paralysis by analysis.
It could work both ways, I guess.
And how many times are you on the phone with somebody and they just have questions specific to dividends, the company, and like specific to the policy itself?
Yeah, it happens.
Okay. So how do you respond in those situations?
Yeah. Well, I like to draw a line. I saw one of our friends in the industry do this, draw a line in the middle of the page. And what we have on the left-hand side of that page is what is seen. And we can put the insurance policy up there. And I'm not discounting. I personally love the details. I want to understand what's going on in the policy. I get that as much as anybody. But that's only 50% of the page. On the other side is the unseen. And we can draw some arrows from the cash value that we're creating and fill in the blank. Draw a line and fill in the blank. If it wants to be 100 unicorns, that can be your blank.
Hey, it's going to have to be 101 unicorns at this point, because I already own 100 unicorns.
Yeah.
So just letting you know it's taken. Okay. But let me point something else out here. Why are we saying that this could be a problem? Is number one, if we get so focused in on the details, sometimes it causes us to cloud our own judgment and to, like you said, to miss the big picture that's at work. I'm going to give another analogy that maybe could help people to figure this out as well. When I was in the mortgage business, I'd have people call and they would ask a very simple question. What's your interest rate? Okay. Well, what do you mean? That was my question back. How could I possibly answer their question is, what is your interest rate? If I don't know, are you buying a home? Are you refinancing a home? Are you getting cash out? Are you getting an equity line? Like what are you specifically looking for? Well, that had to happen. I had to know that. And then I just had to say, well, what's your credit score? Well, how much are you putting down? Like all these other factors had to do with what the interest rate was. And so to me, we can't miss the fact that getting too granular on what the actual policy itself is will keep us from expanding our mind. That to me is the takeaway from today's what we're talking about.
Yeah, just focusing on that interest rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Misses the overall objective, I think.
And I think that that's why being a part of our inner circle and being exposed to what people are doing with their policies has been the greatest value of all, because that is where really you're seeing people's lives changed. It's not just a policy at that point. In fact, when people send us emails and text or messages in the app or whatever it might be, and they're thanking us for what they have done, it has nothing to do with the policy. In fact, I never hear someone say, man, thank you for this policy.
Yeah.
It's something else, right? It's thank you because my wife and I are talking about finances. We've never done that before. My daughter or my son is starting a new business is because we started talking about that gain cash flow that you introduced to us through the podcast or other things, right? So anyways, I can kind of get on a rampage here,
Yeah.
but
that vision is great.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about direct, non-direct recognition, which I think is a great topic, and I love it. But I think there is a balance, right? What is unseen is what we're talking about. And I think the details can overwhelm, can paralyze, but it's often good motives, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is somebody's motive for getting into those weeds?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be informed when they make a decision, right? When we're talking about infinite banking here, we're saying this is the long game. This is a life game. So do you want the right company to work with? You want the right coach for that matter, right? What is the best plan for me to implement infinite banking? So the insurance company, the type of policy. In other words, a lot of people don't want to make a mistake.
That's right.
I mean, that's to me is ground zero.
Yeah, I don't want to make a mistake.
Well, I know that.
And how can I avoid making a mistake? Is with understanding.
That's right. Diving in deep.
And I think that's great. And I love that. And I mean, think about it like this. If I have bought a few cars recently. And
you got on a rampage there. I mean, just like buying all kinds of things.
I feel like other people got on a rampage against me. Like bumper cars out there, I think. and for me, so I spent the last year researching cars.
Yeah.
Because it's a good thing to do. And because there's lots of different cars out there. It's the same way it is with these insurance companies. They put a lot of different products out there. And so I think it's a lot like buying a car. We want to evaluate.
That's right. If people are looking for, the performance of the policy, what do the numbers say? And again, we are talking about an illustration at that point. And if you've not seen one, this is where you can see the guaranteed cash and the non-guaranteed, which includes the dividends, which we don't know if those are going to be accurate or not. In fact, we would probably say we do know that they won't be accurate because dividends are not guaranteed. They have been paid, like the companies we work with have paid a dividend for every year for over 100 years. Otherwise, they're not on the list. So that's one of those evaluating things we've already taken care of for you. If they haven't done that, they're not even in the mix.
That's right.
Okay. But we do want to know at the end of the day, what does that performance look like? And I'll say this, one of the other challenges that people face when it comes to direct and non-direct is that there are some people, especially in the infinite banking community, other agents even that sell life insurance that are so biased about if you have to have a non-direct recognition company or a direct recognition company, that it makes you feel like if you had the opposite type of policy that you're inferior. And the case is that is completely false, because that's even an agent getting so focused in on the details that they miss the big picture,
right?
In my opinion.
Right. No doubt. And I think probably their motive is good, is they want to help people do what they think is right.
Yeah.
But they're not, again, they're biased. They're not seeing the whole picture.
Yeah. And I think internally, when you're in that process, I mean, you're talking to people even today who are right in that they're right in that decision-making process. I'm about to pay my first premium. And they got to be thinking, what if I got the wrong policy, right? If we, I don't want to get frozen here, but I really just have this almost buyer's remorse. Some people probably are like, well, did I do the wrong thing?
Right. Or did I miss something?
Yeah.
Have I not thought about something? For those details people, that's always, did I miss something?
Now, let me tie back your analogy just for a second. For that person that is feeling frozen in that an analytical place, it would be like you being so dialed in on looking at all these different cars over the last year that you just decide to walk to work instead of drive any car.
Yeah.
And you say,
one day I did that. I didn't like it.
I mean, it literally is like, you know what? I can't make a decision. So I'm just going to go the hard way, the hardest possible way. That's right. And just walk. Like, we would never do that.
That's right. Or you're standing on top of that par 3 and you never hit the golf ball.
Yeah. You're guaranteed not to score well if you don't take the first shot.
That's true.
Right. So what else?
Yeah. Well, I think about this when we talk about direct, non-direct recognition companies. I mean, what about us? What does our experience tell us? And I have a policy that's direct recognition. Do you have one?
I absolutely have multiple direct recognition companies.
Yeah, and you also have policies at non-direct recognition companies.
I have. I'm a man of both sides of the coin.
There you go.
Russ the same way. And this is where I would say we have had the same questions. There have been times that I've wondered, like, oh man, did we make the wrong decision by, going with this company early on or going with this company? And we've actually done some, even lately, we've even, done some analysis and made some decisions based on some other factors.
Look back and see how it's going.
That's right. But the overall trajectory of our lives, having implemented the process, and I'm using very specific words here, implementing the process of IBC has made all the difference. Again, we are going to dive into the inner circle in just a few minutes. We're actually going to dive into specific numbers so you can see the effects. In fact, we want you to be completely informed of how the numbers play out, the performance. And again, we're talking about illustrations that are not for sure, but we're going to show you how those things can be affected. And you can make your own decision. We don't care, right? The biggest thing we do care about is that you transform your life by getting closer to financial freedom and being able to, I'm going to tell you this right now, being out there with my daughters this morning, playing golf, I was like, how many selfies can I take to remember this? Like, this is the impact on their lives that I get to do because of financial freedom. And infinite banking was the means to that end. There is an internal rate of return on these policies. And again, you're going to see those things point blank, black and white. And there's an external rate of return. And that is what you do with it. And we, as you know, you listen to our show, we talk about every possibility known to man to build wealth without Wall Street through these policies. And the external rate of return is absurd. Like it's exponential. So that's where the real transformation is going to happen. Where real wealth is made. If you want to look at one of these policies yourself and you need to get with a coach who can help you navigate this, because again, you try to do this on your own, you're going to get confused. No question. You need to be able to navigate that with a coach who knows both sides of the coin, and they can take your specific situation and be able to take it through that filter, the evaluation that we've been talking about,
right, yeah,
and apply it to their specific situation. So you need to go right now to freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, and you can get a 15-minute call with one of our coaches and go deeper in this process specifically. All right. So today, hope we didn't lose you on non-direct and direct recognition. It's a very deep subject, and we're actually going to get even deeper in the inner circle, go into this hot seat and Q&A session. So join us there. And by the way, what we just talked about today with non-direct and direct recognition could all be obliterated with our topic next week. We're going to bring in an expert to talk about how you could collateralize your policy with a line of credit from a bank. That may sound totally absurd, and I hope you'll listen in for next week's conversation. You're going to love it. We'll see you next week.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry.